Welcome to the Flora Sage Podcast, a place where we help you create a life you're excited about. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you fine folks who are listening today. So today I want to talk about awareness, and I want to start today's podcast with a quote from Seneca. And Seneca says, "Not how long, but how well you lived is the main thing." So over the last 24 years, I've been helping people simplify their lives through coaching, through programs, through books, through stories, all kinds of ways. And one of the questions that I get asked is, Flora, I know that I'm in this cycle of fill in the blank, whether it's codependency, and I talk very excessively about my codependent journey in my book, The 1 Degree Shift, whether it's codependency, whether it's clutter, whether it's self-sabotage. How do I get out of that cycle? How do I just end the cycle? Because I'm done with it. And I actually congratulate the person when they ask me that question, simply because awareness is the first step. Awareness is the first step. If you are tired of being overweight, you are telling yourself, I am tired of being overweight. How can I stop being overweight? Boom, you're aware that there's an issue. I'm tired of being in a shitty relationship. Boom, you're aware of the issue. Literally, awareness is the key to kicking yourself out of the cycle. How many of you have had a crappy relationship? You get out of it, you get into the next relationship, and it's literally the same relationship, but with just a different person. But the same dynamics, the same bullshit, the same things that happen, and you're just like, I don't understand. I'm with a different person. It's the cycle that repeats. It's those dynamics that we haven't yet dealt with. So I've been married and divorced 3 times. My first marriage was 6 years, second marriage, 4 months, third marriage, 8 years. And I realized after that third marriage, I'm like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I had been going to therapy literally since my mom died when I was 12. But I'd been going to marriage therapy and counseling since my first marriage. It was probably about the 3rd to 4th year of my first marriage that I started to go to therapy. And I worked on communication. I worked on this and that and everything else. And I even went to a sex therapist. I'm like, something's got to give. I got to figure out some way for this to work. And after my third marriage, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with the therapy. I'm done reading the self-help books for marriage. I'm done with all of this because obviously there's something that I don't know that needs to be a factor here. I knew that I was the common denominator in all 3 of those marriages. So I knew I needed to fix my stuff in order for the next relationship that I was in to work. And that awareness was that key. Being aware that, okay, I had 3 marriages and 3 divorces. I do not call them failed marriages because they weren't a failure. They're very successful in teaching me what I'm no longer willing to put up with and what I am now available for. And being aware that the therapists that I had worked with, they were good as far as teaching me how to better communicate, how to be more articulate with my partners. But none of them said that I was in a codependent relationship. Now, this podcast is not going to be about codependency. That's a whole several other podcasts. This is just about being aware of the situation. And so after that third marriage and third divorce, I realized, wait a minute, I'm in therapy. This shouldn't be happening. What's going on here? So I stopped. I'm just like, and for some reason, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I didn't put my marriage difficulties and my therapy. I didn't realize, I don't know why. I think many times because we're in the thick of it, we're just so focused on, well, I need to fix this and I need to fix that and everything else and in between and yada, 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 yada. And let me read another book and let me take another class and whatever. And sometimes we need to just stop. We need to just stop and say, okay, what am I doing? And what are the results that I'm getting? What I was doing was I was in marriages that were unhealthy, that were codependent. What I was doing was I was going to therapy to try to put a Band-Aid on something, but didn't realize that it was a codependent issue. Until I stopped all therapy, I stopped reading all the marriage books, all the communication books, and started to look at that common denominator. And like I said, obviously that was me. And I'm just like, okay, so obviously I need to work on myself first in a different way. And I didn't know what way that would be. I didn't know. But it was that awareness of the cycle that I was in. And the cycle that I was in was meet somebody I really, jive with. Okay, we get married. We have these issues. And it was like this cycle of repeat patterns. Then I'd go to therapy, try to fix it. It would get worse. I'd go to therapy. It would get worse. And I'm just like, what's going on? Get divorced after 6 years. Get married, same thing. Get married again, same thing. I'm just like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And when I said, okay, third time was not a charm, let me back up. And I had to really take stock in the situation. Again, I was the common denominator. And that awareness of what was working, what wasn't working is enough for people to kick themselves out of the cycle. But awareness is just the first step. The second step is to stop. Stop what you're doing. Don't get into another relationship. Don't buy that extra whatever the heck. So I throw out relationships just as an example, but there's relationship issues. There are, weight issues, health issues, financial issues, all kinds of issues. So when you realize there's an issue and there's like a repeat pattern and that cycle, being aware of that cycle is step number one, is being aware of it. The second step is to stop. Don't get married again. Don't even get into another relationship again. If it's debt, stop spending. Don't open another credit card. If it's your weight, have you gone to the doctor to get your thyroid checked? Have you gone to the doctor to get a consultation? Give yourself permission to be honest with yourself about the cycles that you're in. You already know what they are, but are you aware enough to pull back and stop taking action? And give yourself permission to just be in that space of awareness and curiosity. And that's one of the things that my clients are just kind of shocked about, is when I just say, let's get curious about this awareness. Let's get curious about this cycle that you've been in. And that curiosity is huge, huge. Because when you can get curious without judgment, without the shoulda, woulda, couldas, and you allow yourself to just get curious for the sake of curiosity's sake, what happens is you start to pinpoint all these little nuances, all these little things, and you start to find patterns. You start to find those solutions. You start to find those things that just start to make sense. You start to recognize those triggers. You start to recognize ways to diffuse and release and neutralize the cycle. So today, get honest with yourself about where you're at. Lean in and get curious. And stop taking action for just a hot second. And I promise you, you will start to see solutions right before your very eyes. I hope this serves you, and I'll see you in the next podcast. If you're enjoying this content, which I hope you are, and you're applying this knowledge in your life and are seeing results, I would love to hear about your successes. Click the link in today's show notes, share your success story with me so you can help to inspire others. Also, if you've been loving these episodes, it would mean the world to me if you would rate this podcast on iTunes. A 5-star rating is what I always aim for. Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. All links mentioned are in today's show notes.